you're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
Do you feel it?
Yes, we do.
A worldwide awakening is upon us. Welcome to the Universal Consciousness Show. The Universal Consciousness Show, where we explore topics such as UFOs, aliens, banned medical cures, as well as classified secret knowledge. Come question your holographic existence. Share experiences from the other side. This is a show that will expand your mind as we decrypt the symbolic messages locked away deep within your DNA. And now, your guides for this magical journey. The hosts of the Universal Consciousness Show, Augie Nost and Diana Seraphim.
Hello, hello. Yes, you are listening to the show for the thinking global citizen, right here on the Universal Consciousness Show. My name is Augie, and I'm one of the hosts, and my co-host Diana is over in Germany. And Diana, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. We got another show, and we got a very exciting guest for. We got some solutions for you. And that is, looking around the world today, there aren't that many solutions that become apparent to us. And before I introduce the guest to you here, I want to talk a little bit about how you also can connect with us. You can find us at the universal-consciousness-show.com. And we're also on YouTube with the same name, Universal Consciousness Show. And while you are there, please subscribe to our channel so we can help us to get a little bigger numbers there. And also click that little bell next to it so you can get a notification when the next show is coming up. And also there is this very wonderful little feature down at the bottom of the page. If you are listening to the show on kcorradio.com, there's a donate button. And if you can help us out that way, it tells us that we are doing the right thing. And that is always nice. So what we also are going to do this time, we're going to talk about solutions, and we have a very exciting guest. Her name is Nouri Love, and she is an entrepreneur, a radio host, a podcast host, and she is my co-host on the broadcast team Alpha. And also she is a hypnotherapist, a Reiki master, a double certified law of attraction life coach. She's an author, a registered nurse, and a few other things. And wow, she wears many hats. But then again, the saying goes, if you want something done right, give it to a busy person because they get it done right away. And I would love to have her introduced right now. I wonder if she is with us because she's been to the vet with her little dog. Hey!
Sorry!
Nouri is in the building.
Ooh, what a whirlwind. Hi.
Oh, how is the little girl, the dog?
Well, her adrenaline was pumping when we got to the vet. So, of course, she didn't demonstrate any pain. So he took some x-rays because, it was suspicious for her hip. And he thinks maybe it's a soft tissue injury and give her some Motrin, doggy Motrin. And, if it doesn't get better, we'll have to look at other things. So thank you. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, she'll be all right.
I've been a nurse 26 years and I've seen everything you could imagine that I've seen. And nothing bothers me except my dog being in pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see how she was a little upset going to the vet, because probably she would feel like I would if I went to the dentist.
Exactly. Exactly. Hi, Diana. Hi.
Hello, Nouri. Thank you
Hi.
so much for being with us
My
again. And
pleasure.
I'm
My
so happy to
pleasure.
talk to you again.
I know, it's so good.
I hope your dog will get well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
She'll be all right. She'll be all right. But today, I think we should see if we can find some solutions for people. Looking around the world today, there is all kinds of challenges out there, and solutions don't really stare us in the face all the time, but we'll see if we can find some. And some of these solutions are not that apparent. They may be in our bodies as memory. And let's take an example where, let's say somebody is afraid of height, and or they're afraid of water. They're so afraid of height that they can hardly stand up. 6 feet above the floor is too high for them, Or if they're so afraid of water that they won't even go in a swimming pool. Why with this? If you talk to a doctor about that, he's going to say, well, I'll tell you, I'll give you this pill and it will numb your head so you don't care about anything, and then you're good. Well,
Exactly.
that doesn't solve anything. But it just might be that there is memory in the cells of your body that has memories of maybe a trauma that you had when you were a little child.
Right.
Or maybe even further back, maybe you had a trauma before you were born.
Mm-hmm.
That could also happen in the womb, or before you were even there in a previous life situation. Because memories come from far back. They can also come from your grandfather. Let's say he had a very bad trauma, and that is transferred in cellular memory to your dad and to you, and maybe your children can even have it. So these kinds of things, we have all kinds of different memories. We have brain memory, of course, and we have genetic memory. And then we have pre-birth memory that is passed along as bits of consciousness, and cellular memory. So this gets really deep. And what can we say about these kinds of memory, Nouri? I know there are solutions, and I don't know anybody better to talk about it than you.
Aw, thank you. So a story is coming up in my memory. I spent most of my adult life in Virginia Beach, down at the Edgar Cayce Museum, which is the Center for Research and Enlightenment. And I met a lot of really amazing holistic people there. And back in the day, there was a naturopathic doctor that was working with frequency. Of course, he was in the closet, couldn't come out of the closet yet. But somebody who was my peer at the time kept having these really weird symptoms. So he went to this doctor who, I don't know if they took some blood and got the frequency of his blood, but when they matched it up with certain frequencies, there was a frequency of Lyme disease in his body. And it turned out that my friend had no Lyme disease, but his mother told him that the great-great-grandmother did. So, I don't know what all that is about, but I would say that it makes a case for everything that you're saying right now, and I mean, in the health and fitness arena, you always hear, right, muscle memory. Okay, you worked out when you were young, and when you're in your 20s, and maybe during your 40s and 50s, you took a break and you go back to working out in your 50s or 60s, and you shape up really quickly. Why? Because your muscles have memory.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the amazing, although painful, massage called Rolfing. Rolfing, you have to go to somebody who's trained in Rolfing. And what it does, it works on the fascia. So the silver skin, like the silvery, shiny stuff that's on chicken when you take the skin off, that's fascia. And fascia, we have fascia over all of our muscles. So the theory is that not only do the muscles hold memory, but the fascia really stores the memory. So you go for 12 months and they work on a certain part of your body. And when they worked on my underneath my ribs, and it was the most painful thing, almost the most painful thing that I ever felt. I had these memories of my mother saying, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." And as a result of "don't cry," I clamped down on my diaphragm all the time. And when he released the fascia on there, I cried like I had never cried before. And it was completely gone after that. The memory of my mother saying, don't cry, came back up so vividly. And then after it released and I cried, it never felt the same again. It felt like freedom.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that memory was stored that long.
Exactly. From childhood.
3 different generations down to you. Wow. Yeah, I guess it can do that.
Well, even as as somebody who helps people shape their bodies, it said, air quotes, it said that you store grief in your limbs, in your arms and your legs. Mm-hmm. So I encourage people when they're working out that, if you have grief or if you think you have unresolved grief, imagine channeling it through those leg exercises or those arm exercises that you're doing and just see if you notice a difference. It can't hurt, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's celery. Celery. The
celery has memory too.
Okay.
Yeah.
The cellular memory is an interesting subject because Emory University School of Medicine, they have come out with some new research now, and they're really confirming what you're talking about. Memory, they're saying memory is stored everywhere in the body, in cells, in the brain, in the DNA, even in the aura, the bioelectromagnetic field around the body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Have memory, and also in consciousness. And epigenetics, they're saying, can help to change all the qualities of that memory so it get lesser and lesser as you work on it, lesser and lesser apparent, and these traits that you may not want, they go away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there is some science here behind this also.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. In fact, if we take another really goofy example, the monarch butterfly, they take 3 generations to fly from Canada to Mexico and back and forth. So with other words, the butterfly that starts out has never been to the place where they came from, where they're going. So how do they know where they're going if they die on the way there and then the new generation start? There is cellular memory in those little butterflies that tells them where they're going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Harvard Medical School is talking about it. They define it as a sustained cellular response to a transient stimulus. So that's a bunch of, really technical information. But this is in an article where a 70-year-old woman received the 18-year-old lungs, a heart and lungs of a young boy who died in a motorcycle accident. And after she received the heart and the lungs, she suddenly had all these really weird cravings. She was craving burgers and French fries and beer, and she never craved that stuff before in her life. And she contacted the boy's family, and they said that that's all he ate, when he was 18. So, you can't deny things like that,
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and they've also found that one of the places where a lot of this memory is stored is right in a very tiny little heart. I mean, a brain in the heart. And that little brain in the heart is hardwired to the pituitary gland, and the brain, and they communicate all the time. That little brain in the heart holds memory. So that explains maybe why somebody having a heart transplant, their little brain in the heart comes with it, and all the memories of what the previous, call it owner of the heart, had and did and experienced are in there. So now they like hamburgers, they like beer. Well, it's not really a bad taste except for the hamburger, but
Well, whatever, yeah.
yeah. So I think there's so much that we yet have to learn.
Right. Yes. And, and so we talked about muscle memory. We talked about cellular memory. We talked about memory in the auric field. There's an alternative, not acronym, it's called BM, right? But it's for body memory. I guess that isn't, the initials for it. And the hypothesis is that the body itself, is capable of storing memories, not just the brain, but the body itself. So when I work with people in hypnosis and sometimes in Reiki, I'll use imagery with people while I'm working with them with Reiki. We use the imagination, if you will, and we don't, who knows, maybe it's real. If you go back, if you have a past life regression and you go back in time and, you find yourself in the middle of a battlefield with an arrow underneath your scapula, and during the hypnosis you get it removed and healed, and you come back from your hypnotherapy and you no longer have pain under your scapula. I have to say that that's real.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But Nouri, I don't know if you are familiar with the healing deep memory process, the so-called DMP from Dr. Scott Gauthier. But according to him, a memory exists in a very large informational field of a person, and according to the deep memory process, this memory could be a trans life memory. That means it could be from another life, from a past life or a future life, or a transgenerational memory. That means that it could belong to somebody from your ancestrals. Yes. So from other generation. How can you make the difference if you go to with a patient from you in hypnosis and they have a memory? Can you be sure that this memory is his own, or is his or it could belong to another person from his generation? Did you have something like that?
Yeah. So, in hypnotherapy, we can go back and, and just ask, when they're in the hypnotic state, they can ask. But before we even go in, we could do muscle testing to find out if it's their memory or if it's somebody else's. If it's somebody else's, is it ancestral? Yes or no? And then we have a little bit more of a pathway of where we'll go during the hypnosis. But pretty much, it stands across the board, ask and you will receive. So I tend to ask and have people ask, their higher self, their wise mind, their subconscious mind. If they're religious, they can pray, to receive the answers. All of the answers are within us. It's just a matter of finding what works for each of us to get us relaxed enough and comfortable enough and believing enough that we can really access the answers.
Mm-hmm. And this is also happening that they go in future lives. So you do also progressions.
Yes, I love progressions. Progressions are so much fun, and progressions tend to heal what's happening in the current life. Like if you don't want to be a smoker, and you go into the future, and your future self is not a smoker, and you have that dialogue or whatever, however the scene plays out for the person regarding smoking, they can come back and actually not want to smoke anymore. Very naturally, just no longer have a taste for it.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
I love this idea to meet a future me. I love this idea.
Well, we should do that. I would love to meet your future you.
Me too. Yes.
There
Okay.
there's probably solutions in the future that you are not aware of that you can discover.
Absolutely. Right. Right.
Yeah, this really is amazing when you think about that. Going forward, in a hypnotic state, going forward, meeting yourself, having a conversation with yourself, finding out what challenges you have today, and in the future, those challenges are no longer there. You know what you did in order to get rid of the challenges.
Yes.
So then you go back and you do those things. Man, oh man, can we imagine the possibilities for that?
Absolutely. And even, if you really, if your heart really, really wants to make a change in something that's going on in your life, even if you just imagine, right, to get some relief, just imagine that future self. Imagine yourself 10 years from now, doing, having all the things that you want, and then recreating, right, those person's habits, recreating those persons, the way that they navigate, on the planet. And it will make your now at least a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, and now you do these hypnosis sessions, man. Now I've been doing hypnosis for a long time too, so I never really concentrated much on the future like that. And I tell you, this is so fascinating that we are going to a break here in about 2.5 minutes, and we're gonna come back then and talk a little more. I want to dwell on this future because when I start thinking about the possibilities of you knowing what is happening in the present while you are in the future and then coming back, it just blows my mind.
And I've had people, meet their future self, and their future self took them, galactic, took them to another planet where they met, other beings, and ended up in something like a med bed, and had a massive healing, during that hypnotic scene. Yeah, amazing.
Boy, oh boy! I hope the listeners are hearing this.
We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. That'd be great.
Let's do that. Let's do that, because I see some possibilities here that really very few people really understand.
And you don't even have to understand it, if it's a little out there for you. If you just think, wow, I am really curious about that, that's enough. That's enough to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I see now we got about less than a minute left for the break. So we will go to break, and then we'll be back talking with Nouri Love, and we will talk about the solutions that is buried in hypnosis, and they are many.
You're listening to the Universal Consciousness Show. The Universal Consciousness Show. Your weekly connection to the truth.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Share your knowledge by calling our hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Now.
Worldwide callers find us on Skype at KCOR Radio. It's time to abandon your fear and question what you think you know.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
More awakening awaits.
After this, after this, after this, after this, after this, after this.
Great.
It's great. I think it's great.
I think it's the all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Make a note of it. It's great. Hello, KCOR listeners. Lori and Fenton here from the Fenton Files to tell you how to watch UFOCon 2020, which was held right before the virus scare and shelter in place. It was a conference like no other, so don't miss out on the specially priced on-demand replay of what is already the most talked about conference of 2020. Visit UFOCon2020.com. That's UFOCon2020.com.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good, as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington, every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
It's showtime!
Here we go, world. You're listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Broadcasting from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Their base is so large it has to draw most of its power from the nearby nuclear fusion plant.
The future of radio is here and now.
Are you ready? Ready to go inside the Matrix? Inside the Matrix.
You see, whoever controls technology controls the world.
Then tune in Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, as your host, Jimmy Brent, takes you deep inside the holographic Matrix.
Carefully designed to stimulate the mind.
Come explore a world of topics from technology, archaeology, spirituality, and so much more. Inside the Matrix will liberate you from the manipulated, parasitic entities of consciousness.
You guys ready for this?
It's time to claim your true natures as creative, divine beings inside the Matrix. Hosted by Jimmy Brent.
Who are we talking about?
Jimmy Brent. Live Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Inside the Matrix. Investigating and analyzing the experience of life. 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 Life.
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
It's time, once again, to unravel the mysteries of the universe by connecting the dots to a higher consciousness. This is the Universal Consciousness Show.
The Universal Consciousness Show.
Now the world will begin hearing us.
Share your knowledge by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
It's as simple as that.
Find us on Twitter at KCOR Radio or use hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us on the live chat at KCORradio.com. Back to your enlightened hosts, Avi Nast and Diana Serafini.
Hello. We are back and we're talking with Nouri Love. We are talking about hypnosis and some of the solutions that can happen by using it. Let me just say a few words first about hypnosis. First of all, I've been doing it for decades myself, and I know that there really are no dangers in it, because if you find yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable, the directions that you are given is that you will just wake up the natural way. You will just fall out and everything will be back to the way it was before you even started. And hypnosis has been around for a very long time. And in fact, thousands of years, the way I look at it, because there is this panel found in Egypt, written in hieroglyphics, where it says there was a person that was healed by the words of another. Now that sounds like hypnosis to me. So if they've been doing it that long, there is something here that is beneficial to people. And that's what we've been talking about. Cellular memory. There is even soul memory or pre-birth memory. These memories are stored in the cellular tissue of the body, in the brain in the heart, in the muscles, and just about everywhere in the body, according to Emory University School of Medicine. So we can apply hypnosis to direct and correct some of these things. And before the break, we were talking about, in fact, going forward in time under hypnosis, meeting yourself, finding out what the challenges of today were, and then coming back and correcting it. Boy, Nouri, this gets deep.
It does get deep. But so, do you want to talk about the one that I was talking about before the break?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go to revisit that one.
So it was amazing, and I never know what's going to happen during hypnotherapy sessions, but because I don't know what's going to happen, like a good nurse, I plan for all the possibilities. So I build into the session, that the person is not going to feel any pain, that they're just going to be a gentle observer, even if they meet with something that looks like, their future self or their past self is having a hard time, they're going to be just an observer and they're not going to feel emotional about it. And so we build in all of these safety valves. And I also build in an anchor. I build in a physical anchor on their body. Like I have them go and remember a time when they felt, so certain and so confident and so, just brave and like they could conquer the world, a real situation that happened. And then we take that memory and we put it somewhere in their body, like maybe in their hand. And so this way, if during the hypnotherapy session, they do meet with something, that's a little scary for them, they can use the anchor. So, but this lady, was going to do a forward progression, and she met her future self, which took her on a galactic ride to another planet, another star system, and met with all of her ancestors there, her ancestors, right? And her ancestors brought her into this room that was like a healing room. And there was a table in the room with all these colored lights above it and below it, and all of these crystals. And she was invited to lay on that table, and she was explaining to me what she was feeling, and it was just shy of ecstasy when she was experiencing that. And what she went into hypnotherapy for actually wasn't physical, right? So she thought, she felt like she kept getting in her own way in her business. She felt like she kept self-sabotaging herself. She would procrastinate, and she just couldn't even make sense out of why she was doing all of those things. So she was going in for what seemed like a non-physical malady, if you will. So she went and she experienced that, had a beautiful, farewell and celebration, came back. And later, a couple of days later, she told me that some of the physical problems that she was having, her back, her neck, her knee, whatever, not only was she not getting in her own way and she was not procrastinating anymore, but those physical ailments had dissipated for her as well. So, you may be skeptical, thinking, oh, that sounds like a bunch of hooey, Nouri. So, you know what? Maybe she really didn't go to another star system. Maybe her consciousness didn't go there. But there was something in her belief system that was stopping her from being who she wanted to be in this life. There were things in her belief system that kept tripping her up to get to where she wanted to be, and they were no longer there. So to me, whether it's real or whether it's imagined, it is so worth it,
Well, we were looking at the end result,
Exactly.
It solved her problem.
Exactly. It did. And I came upon hypnotherapy. This is a personal example, but I am a transparent teacher and coach and hypnotherapist. So I actually went into hypnotherapy because I felt like I had unresolved memories of when I was raped by my best friend's father and I was a little girl. And so I went back in hypnotherapy after many sessions, of building in anchors, safety anchors, because that's a traumatic thing.
Yeah.
And, went back in hypnotherapy and froze the frame right before it happened. And adult Nouri came in and had a conversation with that man, had a conversation with little Nouri, came back from the session, and all of the things that were plaguing me, all of the grief that I was feeling, never returned again. So, I fell in love with hypnotherapy then.
Yeah, there are solutions like that.
There are. It was miraculous. And nothing else, I had been through therapy, I've been through rebirthing, I did everything that I could do, but it was hypnotherapy that really, really healed it for me.
Mm-hmm. And then again, in conjunction with hypnotherapy, some of the effects of hypnotherapy probably can express itself also through epigenetics, because epigenetics is more or less like you can turn off the genetic markers and turn on the good genetic markers by the way you think and your environment.
Right.
When you're under hypnosis, you are thinking, and you can install thoughts as solutions that will probably get an epigenetic effect.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be, and historically it's not really nuts and bolts. We're talking nuts and bolts right now for the sake of conversation. But when it comes to the hypnotherapy session, the subconscious mind speaks to people in the most loving, caring, and compassionate ways. So if you want to go in and turn off the markers, of bad genetics and turn on the markers of good genetics, so to speak, it can be as beautiful as, these iridescent stars floating through your body. And then the person, the client, changes the color of the stars. They intentionally choose a color, they change the color of the stars, and bam, it's that easy. It doesn't have to be nuts and bolts. It's always such a beautiful, peaceful, and magical journey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's right. You don't have to think about the nuts and the bolts, because the body knows how to heal itself.
Exactly.
So let's say that you have an ailment of some type. Under hypnosis, you can tell the body, you know what the problem is, you will heal it. So something to the effect of that. So
right.
You order the body to heal itself, and then it goes and does it.
Right. And if it's the person, because people, receive language and information, on a certain level. So if they're the kind of person that receives language that you will heal it, yes, boom, it can be done. If they're the other type of person that, needs like inferences and visuals, then they get the stars and they get to change the color of the stars. But it is that simple. That's the beauty of it. Mm-hmm. But most people just have to be willing to suspend their disbelief, in order to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at least leave it open, try it and leave it open for possibility.
Well, here's the thing that's amazing about hypnotherapy. One, you're always in control of your own mind. Two, you don't have to take drugs to heal something. You don't have to have, caustic treatments, from Western medicine, and there's no side effects. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about a simple thing like quit smoking?
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely. That's one of my favorite things to do with people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people they smoked all their life, and they're smoking the wrong kinds of cigarette, the Western cigarettes. So they get all the. I think it's about hundreds of poisons in one cigarette, different kinds of poisons in there that can be very harmful to the body. And once you quit smoking, then all these things start going away. So you add years to your life.
Absolutely. And, they say that hypnotherapy gets to the root cause, but I also like that for some people, for the people who are somewhat analytical, it gets to the root decision. Because I remember when I was, an adolescent and trying to smoke one of my parents' cigarettes that had no filters. Oh my goodness. Where me and my best friend, we were like by my bedroom window, right, trying to blow the smoke out the window. But I was coughing my brains out, and it burned my throat, and it burned my lungs. And I thought, this is not for me. But there are those people who say, I'm just going to push through this, and you push through until eventually the nicotine, and the chemicals hook you. So we can go back to that decision point and look at that moment when it was so uncomfortable, and then the person can make a different decision.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't want to be a smoker.
No.
Boom. And it's done. It's really done.
I remember my mom cured me for that because I was curious, and she was smoked, not much, but maybe 3 or 4 cigarettes a week. And I was looking at that, and I asked about it, and she says, "Oh yeah, go ahead and have." So she gave me a cigarette and just take a deep breath, she said. And that was the end of it.
I was
right? Curled up in a ball, I think, after that. And no way was I ever going to do that again.
Your mom was a smart woman. And one of the other things that I love, and that I love that because of my history of having been obese once, I love working with with body goals for people. People who are, let's say, obese, in their waking life right now, can go back, and they can either go back to a point in time where they began eating, overeating and being out of touch with their body and heal it on that level, or they can go forward to their future self and heal it on that level. And I love how effortless it is for people after that.
Yeah.
The subconscious mind, and it's not just the subconscious mind. We're tapping into energy and spirit. So the subconscious mind in conjunction with energy and spirit, you can't lose. You can't lose unless, your logical, analytical brain gets in the way, and then there are ways to work around that.
Yeah. And there is something called soul memory or consciousness memory, and this is hard to explain in the fourth dimension because it has a different language in there in that arena, but it's got visuals and emotions and feelings and a knowing and stuff like that coming with that type of memory, and it is very strong when it shows up. And during hypnosis, you can also go back and you can change some of that, because you can, in that state of mind, you can understand that language better, and you can either, by understanding it, you could also avoid some of it, and you can also do away with it under hypnosis.
Yes, and it's theorized that when we experience trauma, whether real or imagined or emotional or spiritual, like pieces of our slivers of our soul, fracture off. And we can go back in hypnosis, and we don't even have to go back to why they fractured off, but we can go back in a beautiful journey of imagery and color and, whatever the person brings up for themselves to retrieve those soul fragments.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, because if you think about the soul itself, it is consciousness, and consciousness does not die. It comes from many previous lives, and it accumulates information and memory from those lives, and they pass through the present, and there might be more lifetimes, and the memory of that passes with you. So there's a veil put between them, but once in a while we have a way to get through the veil. So why should we not be able to remember some of these things? It can be done when we get deep enough into the psyche, and normal consciousness don't do that, but hypnosis can do that. So we can go back and repair things.
Right.
And that's what I'm really excited about.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's like I said, there isn't a session that I have had where I am not in awe, that I am not just stunned at how perfect and how exacting, and how loving the subconscious mind is, and gives the people what they really, really are asking for, gives my clients what they're asking for. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cellular memory or pre-birth memory that shows up sometimes in the cells, that is one thing that I'll tell you, there's one example here that's going to take me about a minute and a half to explain, and I think I'm going to do that because it just shows really, it proves that this is real. Mm-hmm. At the age of 3 years old, in 2009, there was a young boy that told his parents, I have been someone else in the past. And he knew where his grave was, and they kind of blew it off. They didn't really pay much attention, but he had some traumas, and they were wondering about maybe it had a connection. So they talked to a doctor, and so he went with them. The boy said that he was killed by an axe blow to the head one time in a previous life, and he right where he had a birthmark. Mm-hmm. So he took his parents and this doctor that investigated this case to another village close by. They visited a man there, and the boy told him, I used to be your neighbor, and we had a fight, and you killed me with an axe, and now I have a birthmark there. Wow. And the man's face is reported to have turned white when he was confronted with this. And then the boy told them, I'll show you where my grave is. So they walked off into a wooded area, and they found a stone pile, and they dug away the stones, and there was a human skeleton in it. And this cranium, the skull of that skeleton, had a deep crushed-in wound right where the boy said he was hit and killed. And to that day, he had a birthmark right at that place.
Amazing.
How much stranger can it get than that?
Yes. And, another example, and this is coming from Harvard, was an 8-year-old girl who received, this isn't past life, but she received the heart of a 10-year-old who had died. And after the surgery and her healing, she began to have nightmares of a man who was trying to kill her. And her dreams were so vivid that they took her to a psychiatrist who believed that they were real. And then it was found that the donor of the heart was murdered. And the young girl who received her heart was able to tell the police, about the murder, and it led to a conviction. So you can't, this is Harvard. You can't make this stuff up.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, man. And these are not the only two stories. There are hundreds of stories like this out there.
Absolutely.
When I did a little bit of research in it, and I found a whole bunch of them. There's verified stories of people that had previous memories. They went back and got it verified.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been talking about these kinds of challenges here. So tell us, Nouri, where can people come to you and get some help for some of the things that they might be wondering about?
So the easiest way to get in touch with me is send me an email to NouriLoveMail@gmail.com. Really easy, NouriLoveMail@gmail.com. And I'll send you a link to my scheduler, and we can schedule a time for us to chat and to see if we're a good match, because, you have to feel comfortable and you have to feel safe with the person that's doing, hypnotherapy with you. So we could see if we're a good match. If we're not, I can give you referrals to other hypnotherapists. And then if we are, we'll schedule your amazing session. Yeah.
And on top of that, you don't do this necessarily in person. They could be in Bangladesh or Moscow, Russia, and you still can do it on the internet, right?
Absolutely. We do it on Zoom. Yep. Really easy. The only thing, that you need to know is that you just need privacy. You need uninterrupted privacy and a camera, so I can just gauge your level of relaxation. Yeah. Really nice. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's important that you have a visual of each other.
Yes.
And I tell you, folks, this is real. In fact, many years ago, when I was doing the TV shows in Tucson, I did a session on quit smoking on the air, on TV. And there were years afterwards, people came up to me sometime, hey, do you remember that hypnosis session you did on TV? It worked. I'm not smoking anymore.
Amazing. That's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you though. And the thing about it is that this is also fun.
It is fun.
When you see that you had challenges and get rid of them, it is so fun to know that you succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's next for you now, Nouri? We got about a minute left, and you got some exciting things going on?
I do have some exciting things going on. I have, we just finished the 12-week total well-being immersion. So I'm going to be starting a new 12-week class in the not too distant future. And we also have a virtual wellness studio that we're going to be opening. And it's going to have all kinds of workout classes and, of course, distance Reiki, and have people to come and speak. And it's going to be amazing. It's called the Center for Radiant Wellbeing. And if you're interested in any of those items, you can just email me, NouriLoveMail@gmail, and I'll give you all the information. Thank you for asking, Augie.
Yeah, I know you got something brewing there, so
I do. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yes, and people, get a hold of Nouri just to get some more information, and you're gonna like it. So we're down to the end of the show here. So we will see you later. We are, in fact, with the Universal Consciousness Show, we're going to take a little break for about a couple of months, and then we'll be back. So we will see you later. Until then, be good to each other.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been the Universal Consciousness Show.
The Universal Consciousness Show.
Your weekly guide to a deeper understanding of the all that we are.
Well, in a few years, it will be a matter of common sense to very many people that they're one with the universe. It'll be so simple.
Live Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, hosts, or their guests, please visit universal-consciousness-show.com. That's universal-consciousness-show.com. Remember, there's a shift coming. A new earthly paradigm. A shift to universal consciousness.
Universal consciousness.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.